Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm with the legends of UK letting agency, John Hards. John, you were the MD of Countrywide Lettings, in charge of over 127,000 rental properties for over 25 years at Countrywide. I'd like to ask your story of where you started off as man and boy, all the way up to basically running the biggest letting agency in the UK. Is that okay?
You can indeed. It was a fun time.
Good stuff.
And it's why I've got no hair left.
Well, there you go. Do you know what?
Many properties, those tenants phoning me day and night. Yeah.
Do you know why letting agents actually have big ears and no hair?
I don't.
How much? Bloody hell. Anyway, let's get. There you go. It's here all week at the bottom of the pier, which is a beautiful part of the world. Where are we today?
We're in Foy.
Good stuff. Where's
Cornwall?
that?
South Coast. Cornwall.
Beautiful. I tell you, it's a long way, mate.
It's a long way.
Good stuff.
Tell me about it. I do it on a regular basis back to London.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is roll the clock back to when you were a boy. Did you always want to be an estate and letting agent?
No, never even thought about it really. It was just one of those things that came about. I left school and did electrical engineering, but hated it because it just wasn't my style.
Okay.
And
can you rewire a plug?
Yeah, I can. Actually.
Excellent.
I learnt that, oscilloscopes, all that stuff. But my father said, if you want to get out of that, you better get a job. So I got the paper. There was a job for Willoughby Tailoring, selling suits. Phoned them up on a Thursday, started work.
Where was this?
Saturday. In Croydon, sunny Croydon.
How old were you at this point?
Probably 18.
18?
18, yeah.
Okay. So you went to work as a tailor?
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
I did actually. It was great fun.
Okay. What did you like about it?
I was a salesman.
What did you like about it?
Well, the fashion, it was easy. I liked earning the money actually because it was very
What
easy.
year was this? I know you should
I can't remember. Roughly 74.
74, okay.
Something like that, 75.
3-day week.
Yeah. We did go through those times. Like a sugar, 50p per gallon of petrol. I remember that, yeah. So yeah, it was good. It was a great fun job, but it wasn't really a career for me. I knew that straight away, but it got me out of doing the engineering stuff. From there, my current wife, Jacqueline, her brother, Michael, was in an estate agent as a trainee surveyor.
Okay.
And we played in a band together. And he said,
bit of a musician, are you?
Bit of a musician.
What do you play?
The drums.
Excellent.
So he said, why don't you apply? There's a job going up the road. Why don't you apply for it? It's a company called Shefford, Sedgwick and Dakin. I applied. The job was for a gentlemanly youth. How about that?
Gentlemanly youth?
So that was the job description I applied for and succeeded in getting. So
what year was that then?
Again, about the same sort of time, 75-ish.
75?
Yeah, I guess.
And what was your job then, apart from making photographs?
It was really trainee surveyor, taking pictures, printing off the details. It was I used to collect the rents actually.
Is that when surveying and estate agency was kind of rolled into one?
It was. It was a general practice office that did everything. So we had a big management portfolio before the 77 Rent Act as well. But we had a big portfolio. I used to go and collect rents on a Monday and Friday. I'd print details, go out and take pictures, but trained up and eventually became the manager of that branch, which was huge.
What, you became a surveyor as well? You got your articles?
I did. Became a surveyor in the 80s sometime, 81, 2, 3, 82, yeah. Whenever that was a long time ago. But the company I was with, I moved on and went to work in Crystal Palace.
So you were going, because you started in Croydon, didn't you?
Well, I was living in Croydon, and the company I went, Shefford, Sedgwick and Dakin, were based in West Wickham in Kent, and they had some difficulties really within the partnership at the time. So I decided to move on, and went because the opportunities weren't there for me. So I went to work in Crystal Palace for a company called Eastman and Dennis.
Okay. Were you almost waiting for dead man's shoes?
You were really, and it wasn't going to be. My boss, who became the partner, was 30. So there was a couple of young, who'd been there a few years longer than I had, but youngish guys. So
was it easy to move jobs?
It was less easy than it is today, but because I wanted to finish my exams.
So you hadn't qualified?
I hadn't qualified. I had a year to go. I wanted to finish that, so I needed a day release to go, and so to get that job, it wasn't that easy, but the job I took was one that interested me. I took a pay drop to get there, but it was the right position with the right future.
What did you? Were you married to Jackie at this time? Or?
Yeah, we were married. Yeah.
Okay. What did she feel about you having to take a pay drop?
Very supportive. always, Jack has been very supportive in whatever I've done, and I wouldn't have done what I've done in my life. I couldn't have done without her, without a doubt. She's there for me all the time, encourages me, whatever it is, and supports me. So she's been an absolute rock.
Well, as my wife says, is that behind every great man there's an even better wife. And
Indeed.
So you went to this firm, as I said, in Crystal Palace. Got your qualifications?
Got my qualifications.
Okay. I mean, tell me a little bit, some stories. I think you had some interesting clients, did you?
We did. We had a lot of. We had the Prime Minister, Jim Callaghan, was a client.
Oh, right.
At the time as well, because he was best friends with the senior partner Gordon Dennis, who had been the Crown Commissioner. So we had lots of interesting clients. We managed 14 farms. We managed bits of Hever Castle. We managed for the National Trust. We managed for the Mafia. So we had all sorts of people. We didn't manage for the Mafia for very long. They actually bought a chunk of property at an auction, and we ended up managing for them, but it wasn't a very easy time, I can tell you.
No,
I got shirt lifted out of the office, literally, and marched down the road. But they wanted some tenants evicted, which I wouldn't do. But,
I'm sure they don't know the difference between Section 8 and Section 21. Okay, so the business sold to Nationwide. What roughly went? Why
well, it would have been late 80s. And I'd been working, it was probably one of the down points of my career, in fairness, because I'd been offered a partnership there and had to work for 3 years to be given a percentage of the business. And during that 3 years, I spent lots of time building up the survey department and really increasing revenues a great deal, which is a job I hated. So even that gave me a bit of a downer. But then to find at the very last minute they sold it to Nationwide, and it felt like my career was shattered. I have to say, this partnership had all gone.
So you worked your backside off for 2.5 years with a promise of some equity.
2 years, 11 months and 30 days.
How did that make you feel?
Not so good. Not so good. It was a hard part of but it's a lesson you learn, that until the contract's done and exchanged, you haven't got it. So, but it was on the day before my 3-year anniversary they completed the sale. So I lost that.
Did they give you any consideration at all?
No.
Did they say anything?
Not particularly, no. But it was a hard lesson to learn.
What did you learn?
What you learn is to fight and make your own way in life, and you have to pick yourself up and get on with it again. So it was rebasing at Nationwide and learning the rules, working with a corporate. It actually it opened the door. It felt like a door would shut, but another one opened.
So hold on, you were growing the survey department, but didn't you always, when you joined Nationwide, go more back into the property management section?
I did, but I've been labelled surveyor.
Okay.
So day one of the Nationwide takeover, I was asked to go and work in the South Croydon survey department, and I got there I said no, but I went there because that's the right thing to do. And when I got there to talk to the boss, I had 8 surveys booked in, and I had to go straight out in my car, and I did 3 days full, survey work. But then I said, this is not for me. It's not what I want to do. And what you're missing is there's a big management department that we have, and I worked in. So I did surveys in the morning and management in the afternoon. There's a very large department that needs running, and no one is running it. Eventually, they saw that as a reality and a need, something that was needed to be done. In fairness, the chairman of Nationwide Anglia, as it was then, was a guy called John Thomas, who had been the senior partner at Baxter Payne and Lepper, which was another business that had been bought by Nationwide. So Baxter Payne and Lepper had a very big management department. He understood that. I spoke to him direct, and he understood it straight away. Put me back in there, and then asked me to help on the Baxter Payne and Lepper management, and then many other managements that were Nationwide had been acquiring, but didn't have any expertise in the rent accounts and the management and the rentals.
Because Nationwide really bought it for the surveying and the sales, didn't they? So they could sell the mortgages off the back of it.
Indeed.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you did such a good job that they actually made you in control of the whole of the lettings for Nationwide, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they did. In fact, it didn't quite happen. They did, but it was about picking up bits and pieces where they'd acquired businesses that weren't working.
But I joined
So-
agency at this time, and lettings was very much seen as the poor boy. The it wasn't sexy, was it?
It wasn't sexy. So
No.
far from it, in fact, because then it was rentals, it was block management, it was the old Rent Act stuff, it was registered rents. I mean, as Nationwide had bought businesses that had thousands of garages, which were problematic. I mean, it was a commercial, it was all sorts of things.
So you'd have been around when the new Housing Act kicked in.
Yes, I commented on the new Housing Act and was involved in that, not in a big way, but I was.
So for anyone under the age of 45, that's when the short ASTs came in, wasn't it?
ASTs came in. 81, you protected shortholds came in, which I used to let through with use, and eventually, yeah, the Rent Act came in, and we were asked to comment. We went to little forums and seminars about it. There weren't very many of us, though.
I mean, everybody says that it fundamentally changed UK property market.
It absolutely changed it. Yeah. Now, I've been building up and taking over all the bits for Nationwide and making them compliant and collecting the monies and rentals and actually consolidating the rental. That was the biggest danger. And it formed the nucleus of what was then eventually branded Nationwide Residential Lettings, and then it became Countrywide Residential Lettings. So it was the nucleus. And initially the turnover was about 500 to 1,000 to a million. It sort of grew to what it is today, but that's where it came from. But we shed, the point I was going to get to is we shed all those other bits that weren't really favourable and they were difficult to manage. And so you lose 80% of your work and 20% of your revenue, and then you make it, and the Housing Act came along. It encouraged that environment. Nationwide had also acquired businesses very upmarket, London and Surrey lettings businesses that did, let properties at 10,000 a month at that stage was a lot of money, and to
Still
film
is.
and still is, yeah, to film companies, and so there was a nucleus there to grow upon and get that upper, improve the quality, get the standards up.
But then Nationwide sold to Countrywide for £1, didn't they, in the mid-late 90s?
Well, the estate agency didn't work, and it was actually the original retail plan, because when we joined Nationwide, they were talking.
We're not allowed to use the word retail and Countrywide
We're
anymore.
not, no.
But this was this.
I get shot for
pre-Allison?
that.
No, don't say
It
that.
was.
Okay.
It was in 1988. They brought that sort of concept, and they'd job share the building society area managers with us.
I used to work for the Halifax,
There
and,
you
they,
are.
and they tried to do that.
Yeah, no, it didn't quite work. We weren't good at their job, and they weren't good at our job, and that's as simple as that. Yeah,
Good at selling houses, not credit cards.
Quite right. So yes, it was.
So you joined Countrywide still as.
I was at Nationwide. I was the national lettings director, I think I was called.
So when Countrywide bought Nationwide for £1. What year was that? That was it
94.
94. Did your job carry on, and you took some more on with Countrywide?
I mean, we were all fearful. I mean, frankly, it was Nationwide was losing millions. The estate agency, not the building, the estate was losing lots of money, and Countrywide was a dynamic, sort of tough business, and there was a fear. It was announced one day, and that was it. It was happened.
Isn't it funny that we're in the first week of March and how the world changes 180 degrees, and now, and I know we're going to do a separate video on that, but how LSL and Countrywide, the roles have changed. We'll do that in a greater.
Well, the roles are changing, and
How did you feel at that time when, as a senior person, because let's be honest, you'd have been on a decent whack at that point?
That evening I got home. We were all called up to a hotel. We were told what had happened. Harry Hill, the chief exec of Countrywide, wasn't there. He was with Nationwide or talking to the press, and so the senior team were there. They were a tough. I worked with them. I loved them actually. But that day they looked like a tough bunch of people, and you think, oh crikey. I got home that night, and I said to my wife, I'm not sure if we've got a job anymore now, but we went out to we got my uncle to come and babysit the kids, and we went to see Forrest Gump that night in the cinema at Purley. So, and I thought we'll have a job this week or next week. So I went to Brentwood, where the head office was. I was asked to go back because it was mainly about sales, and as you say, lettings wasn't
Because
sexy.
let's be honest, in the Countrywide in the 90s, it was like Man City and Liverpool all rolled into one with Real Madrid.
It was.
You were fearful. When I were a lad, which was many years ago.
Well, when we sat in this room, this conference room, and we were told we'd been bought by Countrywide, they did the whole pitch. It was a couple of hours, and at the end of it, one of them said, "Now, who's the man that runs the lettings business?" So I put my hand up, and he said, "Isn't it all bent spoons and complaints, that business?" So that's where we started. But another guy came up and spoke to me after and said, will you come to Brentwood tomorrow, meet Harry Hill, meet some of us and talk through what you do and what the business is about. Harry was instantly very interested in it. Countrywide had their own lettings business, which wasn't working.
So was this under the was Hambro owners?
It was
of
Hambro Countrywide.
Yes.
Yeah. So they had their own 12 branches in Man & Co, which were very good at letting properties, but not so good at managing them afterwards. So he broadly said to me, you've got 12 weeks to sort this lot out. If you can sort it out, you can stay. And if you don't sort it out, Nationwide are happy to have you back. Because I've been working on one of the Nationwide projects with Quality Street. But yeah, here we are. So it seemed to work. It was a very easy fix.
Pretty good. What do you love about property management?
Well, I'm organised, and I think being organised, you can easily do property management. And managing property is managing a contract between a landlord and a tenant. And you've got to be a good negotiator, and really good property managers are negotiators between two parties to solve an issue. Do you want to pay for it? You want it done, you've got to pay for it. So property management isn't terribly difficult. It's difficult with the people, but the job itself is not.
So late 90s rolling through to the early 2000s, lettings were still seen as almost the poor boy, wasn't it?
Well, I said
because the estate agency, 01, 02, 03, it was flying away. It was like fun vouchers, money coming everywhere.
We kept making a profit, so it was a nice thing.
You weren't the stars, though.
We were definitely not the stars, and I have said, you might want to ask me about being letting agents are fighters. Well, we were always at the back of the office, behind the secretaries, or we were on the first floor. And to actually run a business and generate new leads, you have to work very hard. You have to be fighters. And we were second best. We were probably about fourth best actually in the pecking order. We were looked at often as a cost absorber to absorb some of the rents, and not always given the correct credibility. I mean, lots of smart branch managers would always see us as the ones that brought customers in as well. But we were always in the sidelines and never at the front. So we had to fight our way. And the team that I built around me were the successful ones, because they were fighters too.
How did it make you feel that resi sales and mortgages were like the golden boys and running around in their suits and their BMWs?
Well, it just makes you more determined. Well, the suits I was never too fussed about, and the power dressing I was never too fussed about. But I always wanted a BMW or whatever it was at the time. So, and we were like getting paid decent money. So as long as I got paid the right money, I was invited to all the senior meetings, and it put lettings on the map. Okay. And it was about establishing that over and over. But I got terrific support from the very senior team at Countrywide, from Harry in particular. He wasn't probably the biggest lettings fan, but he was a great supporter always. And he'd come to our Countrywide Lettings board meetings on a very regular basis, which gave it more credibility. It helped with all the other managing directors, because there were 40 odd managing directors, and you're one of them, and you have to rent premises from them and work with them. So it was a job where you had to cooperate with lots of people a lot of the time. And a lot of my job was that networking. And
then rolling over to 06, 07, you had the management buyout with Apollo and Alchemy. Now, doing some homework. It's my understanding is that they were particularly interested because of the rent roll that was being brought in. So all of a sudden, especially when 08 hit and when we had the crash, all of a sudden, from being the poor relations, you were brought up to the top.
Well, I got a phone call from Harry one morning, I think it was, and I was in my office, and he said, "John, I need you to be at a meeting this afternoon in Victoria at 2:00." I said, "Well, I can't quite make that today." He said, "No, I need you to be at this meeting at 2:00." So I got my bag and got the train and got into Victoria. I met a couple of guys from that were looking at the business, and I spent until about 6:00 going through what we did and how we did it. And every time I spoke, they were, wow, this is great. And how many branches are you in? And what's the opportunity?
Because lettings wasn't in every.
It wasn't. We were probably at that time 80 to 100 branches.
And the network was about 800 or 900. Yeah.
Let's say.
Opportunity.
So we were 10% or less. And they liked all the repeat income, and of course the the fact you keep the customers, and
Okay.
so they loved
Had
it.
the recession hit had the credit crunch hit at this time? I don't think it had it? No.
It definitely hadn't hit.
No.
We were on a high. We were going high. So it was McKinsey that I met that day. They said to me at 6 o'clock, look, we haven't got enough. Can you come back tomorrow? Can you bring your finance guy, Julian? Bring the finance director with you. So Julian and I turned up the following day. We were in a different office, and there were 30 analysts rowed up in seat, lined up in
Which
seats.
Julian would that be?
Julian Irby,
Okay.
who's a great
Yeah.
friend of mine. We worked very closely
Excellent.
together for a long time.
And what happened in that meeting then?
Well, they just loved it, and they wanted to build a plan that day about developing lettings. So it became flavour of the month there and then. So that was the
So
phone
now,
call,
from
the meeting.
from being the the third or fourth, not the heir and the spare, but the person who's at the bottom, you became golden balls.
Yes, yeah, overnight.
There you go. So Apollo and Alchemy threw some money and we had the management buyout. Were you lucky enough to be involved with
I
that?
was. Yes, so there was 13 of us on the management buyout. I was included in that. It was, an exciting time, I have to say. I mean, the first one with Apollo didn't quite work, but we got it off the ground. But yes, it was very exciting.
But surely by getting involved, you must have put the house on the line, everything on the line.
It was exciting.
Squeaky bum time.
It was squeaky bum. It was exciting in many different ways, and again, possibly a low point, but not really, because we had, when we hit the deck.
What did Jack say when you basically said, "I'm going to put everything on the line, including in my house, for this big chain of agencies"?
She understood all of it, but at the very last knockings, I was offered an extra portion of shares, and we were really up to the neck in doing this, and Grenville phoned and said, look, you wanted some more, John, I can give you some more. And Jack had a lovely Porsche at the time, which was only about 18 months old, so I said to her at dinner that night, look, if we flog your car, we can put a bit extra in, it's going to be worth it. So we had a few tears over dinner.
Okay.
But the following day I sold the Porsche.
What colour was the Porsche?
It was blue.
Okay, so everything go okay with the management buyout, but then 2008 things just fell off the floor.
Yeah, profits went. Market collapsed.
Okay.
Profits went. We couldn't pay the interest on the debt. It was tough. Grenville was an amazing guy. We refinanced. Oaktree came in and refinanced. They were a tough bunch of people. But in fairness, all the Countrywide people were quite tough and work in tough markets and know what to do in tough times. So not all of the 13 original members of that buyout team remained, but I was fortunate enough to be one of those. There were days when you thought we're going to stick to we're going to stay here or not, but I think I did a good job and I knew what I was doing, and they wanted to grow the business. Grenville, Oaktree really felt that the management team must have been not great to have got into that position. Grenville told them otherwise. The minute they met everybody, they realised it was the housing market, not the management team. So they were fantastic at supporting that management team in every way they could. They were absolutely amazing, buyers, if you like, and they stood in. They particularly wanted to grow lettings. They threw quite a lot of money at it, but all for good reason.
So how long before you had lettings in every?
We never got them in every branch.
But it's probably not the wisest thing to say in this market.
No, not today. No, I haven't got my face mask.
No.
It dates it really. This, so the letting wasn't in every branch. We got to 400 or 450. It wouldn't be right to have lettings in every branch. It's not. You need a wider territory. There are not as many lets as there are house sales. So one branch in every two is maximum you'd ever want, really. And that's a sort of a rule of thumb, but not quite accurate. But it's geographically, it's got to be the right location. So when did we get to that? We probably got to that in 2015, 14.
Okay. So wasn't it 2013 that you did an IPO where you went back onto the stock market?
We did.
What was the motivation behind that then?
Well, it was probably the right time to do that. We'd picked the business back up. It was in very good shape with a great team, with terrific profits, and it was the right time to do that. There was no doubt about it. It's better as a PLC, I guess. It gave it more opportunity to have investment back into it, and they wanted to do different things with the investment. with training and
Did you still
development.
retain a good chunk of equity in the business? But obviously, I hope you took some out so you could, live the dream.
I took some. I took a reasonable. We have a decent amount of shares still in
Okay.
Countrywide, but took a sensible amount out.
Good
also
stuff.
to help live the dream. Yes.
When did Alison come in as boss lady?
She joined in 2014.
Okay. What I'd like to do is go look at that, because up until that point, I'm not saying it's because Alison came in, but whenever the word Countrywide was mentioned, fear would rage in someone's heart when you knew you were up against Bairstow Eves or their equivalent.
Good.
Yet we are now in 2020, and for the last couple of years, that fear has not been there.
No.
I know we're going to talk about it in greater detail in another video, which will be on my YouTube channel. But the retail strategy, was that a wise thing to do?
In some cases, in some parts of it, yes. But the management team at Countrywide were key, and we're a very disciplined bunch of people, very focused people. And so the reason there was a fear when you met Countrywide on the high street is because we went out to win. And that's why we
Decent
were
fees.
decent fees. We wouldn't give on the fees. Bob and the team would never give on the fees. And it was a disciplined and well-run workshop.
Because you're managing directors of all the different firms. Basically, it's who's who of UK estate agency, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
With the utmost respect, you hardly hear any one of. There's a few that I know, LSL, and there's a few with Connells, but the Countrywide, directors,
are everywhere.
Your Matt Giggs, your Ian McKenzie's, your Brian Mansells. The list goes on and on and on.
It does. And
What did you not do?
Well, I had the privilege of working with that lot, and actually it taught me to be stronger. And you learn such a lot from we all learn from each other, I guess. But as a team, about
There were
40
star
odd
players,
people.
weren't they?
Yeah, amazing people.
And then,
So what happened with retail is lots of those people were lost.
yeah, it was like getting rid of all your star players.
It was.
I'm sure some of them probably could have been got rid of, but there were some good young pups in there in their 30s and 40s that you'd have thought they're destined for the top.
There was some terrible wastage, sad wastage, the people that shouldn't have gone. But yeah, Alison, her views on how to run it in many ways were okay. She brought in her team, and it was her team that I would think that did more damage.
That was Sam Tyrer and others.
People like that, they had their own view on it, but they didn't have the experience.
I was about to say, do you think non-estate agents should run an estate agency firm?
No.
But what makes estate agency so different to others? Because there's plenty of other industries that you can
Well,
bounce
it's managing between two people, but it's about property. It's a very localized thing. It's terribly localized. The guys here in the town I live in, Foy, know the properties. They know the owners. They know what goes on. They know what makes it tick. And it's having that background knowledge that's very localized. To manage those people, you have to understand all those quirks that go on. It's not selling phones. It's not.
Do you think they were almost making it very transactional when in fact good estate agency is about building long-term relationships?
Yeah, obviously there are transactions in it, but it's about long-term relationships, and it's about understanding the market, and
And do you think these people that were parachuted in from outside didn't understand that?
They didn't get that. No, maybe it wasn't their fault, and Alison picks up lots of the blame, but there's a PLC board that were also there approving what was done. But losing that much experience, and you don't know, they didn't know what they didn't know, and that was the problem.
Wasn't that your job and the other directors to tell them that?
Yes, and the more you spoke about it, the harder it became.
So you were trying to help them, but in reality...
Not with Alison, I wouldn't say. I think I got on well with Alison, I like Alison.
But others in the team that she brought on, no names mentioned, it was my way or the highway.
Yes, for something.
How did that make you feel that someone of such experience and others, the likes of your Bob Scarfs and the other names that we've mentioned?
It was frustrating for all of us. And we'd all worked terribly hard to build that business.
And you had skin in the game because you had
skin in the game. but work terribly hard and skin in the game. So it's very difficult to hear that and hear some of the things. And for me, I thought, well, I'll work with it, and if I can influence in the right way to bring the right things about, then I'll do that. But eventually, that influence wasn't effective. In fact, it just caused more issues at times, and that's how it was for all of us. But yeah.
So you retired in 2017. Did you retire with a heavy heart?
In a way, I wasn't ready for it, and I went back as a consultant almost immediately. I had a short break.
Yeah, because they parachuted you back in with the tenant fee ban.
Well, yes. In fact, I worked independently as a consultant for Allison before I went parachuted back in. So when I was parachuted,
how did that go down with Jack? That basically you were the firm that basically not did the dirty on you, but basically the firm that you loved and you built up.
I'll always love Countrywide. I'll always love Countrywide.
Cast you aside.
And they'll always be in my heart. Countrywide's given us everything we've got. We've had a great time there. I've had a terrific career. I've done things I never guessed I'd do, and all through Countrywide. So how did she feel? She was very supportive about all that too. If I want to do something, as long as it's legal, she's okay with it. So and I liked Alison, and was happy to go back and help on a consultancy basis.
And what did you actually do at Countrywide to help them with get through the tenant fee ban?
With the tenant fee ban, well, it started with my consultancy, and I was working with some government departments. I was on the Fair Fees Forum and the Lettings Industry Council, looking at how the fee ban would work, and initially arguing against some of the thoughts they had that wouldn't have worked. So I had a lot of knowledge of that ban coming in and how it would work and what we needed to do. So getting back to Countrywide, we needed to say, right, these have got to go. There's obviously lots of technical things we have to do at the last minute. We're changing websites, which was a big palaver. But we've got to look at building other sorts of revenue. And actually revenues that maybe once we used to have a long time ago that we dropped because of tenant fees came along. They were easier fix to take. So it was about coming back to some of the skills we used to have. There are lots of products that are very useful for tenants and for landlords that we brought back. So it wasn't.
Two final questions. Do you have any regrets of anything you didn't do whilst you were at Countrywide?
I don't think I do really. I think we did did things I wouldn't have ever dreamt of doing actually. So I don't have any regrets there. Maybe we could have grown the business earlier.
And what lessons have you learned? The final question is, what lessons have you learned at Countrywide in your life which you've helped other people with?
I think the biggest thing is being disciplined and being. You've always got to be straightforward. I don't know as I learned that at Countrywide, but Countrywide's a very straightforward business. It says whatever it needs saying, it's said. So that's very important. But it's to keep on the straight and narrow, to be focused on the path you want to take. It's when people diversify and do all sorts of different things, they lose momentum on the core business. So at Countrywide, they had people running conveyancing as a specific thing, people running surveyors as a specific thing, people running agency as a specific thing, people running lettings. And when we became retail,
because let's be honest,
lose the focus.
I know we're going to talk about that in another video, but they amalgamated the sales and the lettings department, and also at Nationwide they tried to amalgamate.
Same thing.
Yeah, it doesn't work, does it?
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Thank you for your time today. I'd like to, in separate videos, talk to you about the Allison era in greater detail, the back to basics, the acquisitions program, and other things that you want to talk about the lettings industry. Is that okay?
Ideal, yeah.
Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Christopher, very nice.